Hi, Heidi. Happy December.
Hi, how are you?
I'm
Happy
good.
December to you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Yes, we are Christmas celebrators. And I don't know about you, Heidi, but I am feeling the spirit of Christmas today. And it's a little bit stressful for a lot of people. I know the holidays bring stress for a lot of people, and they're not always full of joy. Some people have experienced trauma around the holidays. I know that I have, and sometimes I do struggle to feel what I think I should be feeling. And,
Mhm.
I'm kind of learning the older I get and the more seasoned I am as an occupational therapist to allow myself to feel what I'm feeling and be more present in the moment. Know from my past experience that I'll be okay. I'll get through it and I'll enjoy my family. How about you?
Yeah, you brought up a great point about feelings, expecting what you should feel. And
Oh,
I think people who've had trauma, people who feel stress at different levels, it takes away from that, what they call the spirit of the holiday, right? Spirit is about joy, about connecting, being in the moment, feeling those connections that you feel with the people that you love and care about.
yeah.
So I think allowing yourself to feel those feelings and be okay with that. Those are some of the things that I think about and I've heard about from other family members is, you know, holidays are supposed to be joyous and we hear about, oh, but not everybody feels that joy. Why? And I like to dissect things personally. Why am I allowing that to get to me so I don't feel the spirit of the holiday or joy of being with the people that I really care about and that matter to me? So I think we can go in that direction, the why of white, why we don't feel based on our own personal experience, and then, you know, how we switch that thinking around and how our own simple thinking and transitions with little steps made big changes, not only with ourselves, but with the people that we work with. And I know we touched on that at other times, but I really want to bring in some other pieces with that. So I'm glad that you asked that because I think a lot of us feel that way. A lot of us feel that, why am I not feeling happy? Why am I feeling more stressed than happy? And it's layers. Things create layers. So we have to look at those layers underneath what's causing these things. And that's why we felt so passionate about creating these different programs and really focusing on our personal journeys so that we could support others that we care about or that we care for.
Mhm. Yes, yes. And I think professionals have the potential to have extra layers of stress on us because we have our personal lives and then we have our colleagues and our clients that we're working with and that we care about, and trying to understand each other and providing the level of help, assistance, support that is ours to provide, and being in that caring space. And there's something that you said, the shoulds. So the shoulds. I feel like when you're talking about dissecting and getting into the causes of things, one of the simplest ones for me is when I get into the should thinking and how I should feel. And that is often based on how I perceive others out there looking like they feel, like how I want to feel. And kind of stepping back from the should and thinking about how I do feel and how I want to feel. And if I'm not feeling as good as I would like to feel, oftentimes for me, that comes back to not taking enough time and self care for myself, whatever that looks like. And sometimes it is just sitting with my feelings and understanding that things in the past unfolded the way that they did unfold. I was able to get through that and kind of accepting and loving myself through that. You know, it's along the shoulds line, it can be easy to look back and say, well, I should have done this or I should have done that. And in reality, we do what we know to do in the moment. And that is our best in that moment. And if it's something that we're not proud of, we still did our best in that moment. And understanding that and accepting that, and then being willing to maybe learn a new way to handle a similar situation in the future. Yeah, and giving ourselves grace and being gentle with that part of ourselves.
That's a great word. What is grace, right? What is grace when you're working with other people? It's respecting where you are. It's being kind to yourself, giving yourself kind thoughts, kind feelings. I think we can be our worst enemy by judging ourselves, and then by judging ourselves we judge others. And it seems like such a simple concept, but when you're in the middle of things and you're working with people who have trauma, you're working with family members who are in different states of being and levels of stress, it's easy to put those expectations on ourselves because we are healthcare professionals. We should know this. We should be familiar with this. But we have to respect and be kind to what our experiences were and how that affects the way we think and feel, and then how we project that out to others, whether it's family, community, and work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good explanation of grace, because everybody has their own understanding of what that is and what that might look like. And I really love the word kindness. Kind to yourself. What would that look like to you with your own ideas and your own thoughts and understanding of it? I do spend time envisioning things like that, thoughts like that for myself and what that looks like for me. And when I'm able to extend that to myself, I feel better. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I feel worse for a little while, but I allow myself to feel those feelings. And I think that's kind of the processing piece for a lot of us. But I do know that sometimes feelings are too much for people. If it feels like too much, it's okay to put it aside. I want to say it's okay to get professional help with someone who knows how to help process and understand and sometimes reframe those feelings for better regulation, to be able to regulate your nervous system, because that's a lot of the times I think what helps send people into a state of dysregulation when it gets to be too much, too overwhelming.
Right. And you brought up a great point. Kindness. Kindness being loving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we self-love during the holidays? And being mindful of what we need, because we think about what other people need at Christmas time, and that's being kind. But being kind to yourself, you can be in that freeze state, that fight, flight, or freeze. If it's too much regulating, you can be kind by wrapping yourself up in a blanket and being by a fire. Wrapping yourself up, laying down, sleeping, or listening to music that makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And that calms your system down. Listening to sound, different types of sound, using singing bowls, or if you do play singing bowls, playing for yourself and tuning yourself into what you need rather than tuning into other people. So tuning into ourselves, being kind, understanding what we need during the holidays, not feeling guilty for sitting and binging on movies. If that's what you need, I hear that a lot. Like, I feel so bad that I just sat here all day and watched movies. Well, maybe that's what you needed. But the issue is probably the way we were brought up. I know I was brought up where we really didn't lay around much. There was work to be done. There was 8 children in our family and a lot of work. Everybody had a chore. If you were sitting, you were given a chore. So
Amen to
it's
that. Yeah.
really right. I mean, we
Mhm.
just were worker bees, just worker bees getting things done to help regulate our own system, family system,
Yeah.
forgetting about what we needed. So, I think it's important during the holidays to remember that. And that's the significance of why we love to talk about nervous system regulation. And we see a lot of people talking about nervous system regulation on different channels, different social media, different programs being presented. But I want to talk about what we have to offer, why it's so important for us as occupational therapists and our own unique value in regulating the nervous system. So, do you have any thoughts on that, Deborah? I know you do, but I would
I
love you to
do.
share that with me.
I do. And I love talking about why occupational therapy. And our training, through our training, education, we look at the whole person or the whole system. So if we're working with a person, we're looking at the person, the environment, their occupational performance. And when we're talking about occupational performance, those are all the things that you have to do in a day, everything. So anything you're doing, whether it's resting on the couch or doing the dishes or driving to work, all the things. And every part of those components plays a role in how a person or a system is performing. And if there's a breakdown somewhere, we're trained to be able to look at that person or this system from the outside in and identify, well, it looks like there's a breakdown here. It looks like there's a strength over here, and really understanding all of that and then kind of putting everything together and working with the person, the system, the group to identify which areas of strengths you really want to focus on and build up, and which areas of breakdown you want to focus on improving. And it's such a beautiful, it's like a synergistic way of looking at us as humans and our groups and systems that we live and work within, because nothing's completely horrible and nothing's perfect. Does that make sense? Like the way I'm thinking about
It does. When you were talking, I was thinking about I love puzzle. I love doing puzzles.
it? Mm-hmm.
I gave away a puzzle for a Christmas gift because I just loved it. And I love the thought that somebody would enjoy doing that. Now, whether you're doing that alone or you're working in a group, think about how everybody has a certain learning style and a way that they're going to work with that puzzle. I love starting with the edges.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it easier for me. I've worked with other family members. They love looking at colors and putting colors together to make that pattern for a certain object within that puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we do as occupational therapists is we take the puzzle pieces of strengths from everyone that we work with and we try to put it in this puzzle, whether those strengths are the edges and we're putting the edges together to make something solid to work with. And then we have the other puzzle pieces that need to come together that maybe don't always seem like they fit with what needs to be done to do the things they love, need, and want to do. So we have to start out and break that puzzle down into small compartments and figure out how we're going to break that down into simple steps so that we can make that one piece of that puzzle together
Mm-hmm.
as a team. We're partners. We're not above, we're not below. We're team, we're partnerships. And that's what I love about motivational interviewing and this whole brief action plan that we do with our clients is we're asking the right questions for the clients to answer because we're working as partners, not telling them what they should do. We're not dictatorship. We're not authoritarian, we're partners. And by asking those questions, we're better understanding their needs, their strengths, their challenges, and how we can put their puzzle together so that they can move forward as a team.
I love that so much. I love puzzles too. And I'm finding that people either love them or hate them. There's really not an in between, at least in the world that I've used puzzles in.
Okay.
When I was teaching, I started off teaching as an adjunct and I taught just one course. It was all about diagnoses. It was really like the medical aspect of a diagnosis that we have to understand as occupational therapy practitioners in order to know how to come up with the right interventions. And it was kind of a boring class because it was just this is about the medical stuff. So I was always trying to do something to make it more fun and interesting and interactive. And at the end of the semester, I took a bunch of old puzzle pieces and I put magnets on them. And I would have students take a piece of the puzzle and share it with their neighbor. And their neighbor had to say something about that puzzle that reminded them of the student. And my goal in that activity was to help them see their value within that class. Because a lot of times students, or when you're learning something new, whether you've been doing what you do for a long time or you're just starting learning something, the learning curve can be difficult. And I wanted the students within that class to help each other understand the value that they brought to that class and how they were helping each other grow and learn. And one of the first department head I had didn't really care for that activity because she couldn't see the link to the course. But these are students who are with each other for 2 full years. And my second department head that I had when I was teaching that course, she understood the value of family and how you can tie in something more creative and fun with something that's a little bit boring and mundane to learn. And students would carry their puzzle pieces around with them. They would put them on a magnetic surface to remind themselves. And every once in a while, I hear from somebody with a picture of that. Deborah, look what I found. Made me think of you, and how you helped us to help each other. And that's what I think a lot of what occupational therapy is.
I loved a number of different things that you said. First of all, I could identify with it. Second of all, we both love puzzles and the value of working as a team with puzzles, right? When you're working with somebody on a complex thing, you value, or you have no choice but to value what that other person brings so that you can make this happen, right? Thinking your mindset's different, your approach might be different, but you know the value of that to get this puzzle done. Maybe I'm not good at putting edges together. Maybe I'm great putting colors together and matching pictures, and that's really my strength. So the importance of that is understanding your value. If you don't understand your value or feel your value from other people, not that you should feel your value from other people, but that you don't feel that you're being appreciated based on your values within a setting. So I think we're hearing more and more about professionals who don't feel that value and that passion for what they once had within their profession. And as educators, we can appreciate that because we can break things down. We understand the value, and you prove that great with the way that you presented that, how you work with students and how they're valued within that group, that population of students. So I think that's important to understand value, to know that you feel that value wherever you might be in your environment, right? You talked about people, persons, environments, and occupations, and people are lacking that. They're not feeling the value within their setting for whatever reason, whatever that might be. They're feeling disappointed, dissatisfied, and that's a disservice to that employee. And I think it needs to be recognized, whether it's from the employee or the employer, but the responsibility is on the employee that's feeling that, or the person that's feeling that, and what can they do?
Yes. Oh, God, that was really big, what you just said right there. That's where there are different ways of looking at accountability. And so I'm going to just talk about personal accountability because a lot of times we're looking out there for someone to be providing X, Y, and Z, whether they promised it or it's an expectation that we have. And when we look at that environment that we're practicing in, if it is not supporting us, if it's beyond lack of support into where they're actually making it difficult for us as professionals within our setting to do our job, participate at our best level in our role, then when we start looking at that responsibility that we have, it's our responsibility to make the choice. Are we making the choice from a place of good understanding and confidence, or the thing that happens when you're in a setting where there's so much happening all the time, where you're constantly in that fight or flight state? Sometimes we make different choices that aren't really that great for us. And I feel like I can speak to this because I left a setting that was not conducive to me. And that is really important, to know yourself and to know what it is you want and need in order to practice well at the top of your game. And so when we make a choice from that regulated state, it's a very different type of choice than when we're so dysregulated that we're becoming sick and we're shutting down and we think we hate everything about our profession or what it is we're doing, when in fact it may just be that setting is not a good match for you. And this is where the puzzle comes in, and why we like working with people one-on-one and in group settings, because we are bringing more of a different approach from our understanding as occupational therapists, where we are looking at the whole person and we have different backgrounds, and we're bringing information from our backgrounds, our strengths from our backgrounds, and understanding struggles that people are having and helping to guide people to make the choices that they thought they wanted at one time, maybe helping them to find that again.
Mm-hmm. So I think that that's great. The points that you brought up, there is either an accountability mindset or there's a victim mindset. Accountability is I need to be responsible for my own choices and what can I do? And problem solving. And that's not easy. And we'll
No,
get into that.
that's
Then
really
there's the
hard.
victim.
Yes.
Yes. The victim, it's easier to blame in a short term, but in a long term, you're still feeling that way.
Mm-hmm. And that's
So,
also hard. It's hard in a different.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Well, it takes from you, it takes your energy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you restore your energy? And it's really when you empower yourself and you're now an accountability mindset versus a victim. A victim mindset, you're just, it's a heaviness.
Yeah.
And you're looking outside and blaming outside, but still not taking accountability, but it's the same cycle every week. And that's exhausting.
It's
You're spinning your
disempowering.
wheels and you're going nowhere. Yes, it's disempowering. And you have the control to make that different.
Mm-hmm. And it's,
And I think, go ahead.
well, I mean, and it is difficult. And I think that's where learning some different skills, if you're not able to do it, if you've been trying to do it and it's not, doesn't seem to be working, sometimes that can be a sign that you need a little help. And from somebody who has more of that empowerment way of thinking with a variety of skills to implement at certain times and knowing when to use a specific skill. for your own, like to
And
help yourself the most.
you mentioned us as educators. We're both educators, or we have been in that role. We've both been supervisors. Um, and as occupational therapists, we're looking at the whole person. And you mentioned that earlier. We're looking at their cognitive ability. We're looking at their cognitive levels. How much are they able to self-reflect?
Mhm.
And then how much support can we give that person? And that one-on-one support makes that difference, that one-on-one coaching. We're looking at their sensory system. Are they neurodiverse? Are they challenged with input and how that's coming in from their environment? As occupational therapists, we can help break that down to simplify it so it's not so overwhelming. And we get into that within our program. We don't want to talk about it too much here, but we look at the whole person. Um, and then we're looking at their nervous system from a whole different perspective, different layerings, body systems. What's breaking the breakdown? What's the breakdown? What's the barrier? How can we help them overcome that in ways that make sense to them, not to us,
Yeah.
but in ways that make sense to them where they make that connection and they're motivated to start making those changes.
Oh, I love what you just said. It's the just right place. There's the just right challenge. You're in the state of flow when you can continue moving forward. And if again, if you're stuck and things feel really hard, sometimes it's the task and person match, occupational demands. We talk a lot about that. Is the demand challenging enough? Is it too challenging? Like there are so many different ways that we think about these things and look at the way we look at the whole experience for people. And I think this is important if you're not an OT practitioner to understand a little bit of our thinking, the background of our thinking. And if you are an OT practitioner listening to this, then understanding this is the value that you bring to your setting, to the work that you do, to the people that you work with. And sometimes when we do something so much, it becomes such a part of who we are that we don't see that value. We think, well, this is so easy. Why isn't everyone doing it? Well, it's not easy for everybody. But when it becomes so easy, when somebody makes it look easy, you know that they're very good at what they do.
Right.
So,
And that's our responsibility as program developers,
mhm,
right? How
yes.
to how to create the right challenge, how to look at where the challenges are, how to break that down. That's our responsibility. This is not, and we've said this before, this is not a one size fits all. And a lot of the programs that are out there are one size fits all. This is what we offer. We have this, and this is what's going to happen as a result of this. But if that person feels overwhelmed because it's too much of a challenge, I mean, I know we've jumped into things. We've talked about this because yes, we want change. Yes, this might be the exact thing that we need. And once we're in it, we're like, I just can't do this. I don't have the time. I feel overwhelmed. And that's where the problem starts. And that's where the layering, you get layer over layer, and then you get into that fight, flight, freeze, or even fawn, where you're just people pleasing.
Oh God.
So,
Mhm.
right, the stress response, and that's what we want to prevent. We don't want to add another layer. So, how do we start peeling the layers and helping people? And I think you said it beautifully as we understand the person.
Mhm. Yeah. And we do want to prevent it as much as possible, but it's been my experience on this continuous growth journey that I've been on for many years now that when you're in a growth phase, you're trying something new, sometimes you can't prevent that nervous system response that isn't really serving you that well. And so what do we do to help work through it? What do we do to acknowledge it, understand it, and then help work through it at the pace that's right for the person? And I think that's, looking out at others, it's easy to think that everybody else has their life together. And then to feel like, oh, I'll never make it. I'll never get there. And we just have so many strategies for helping to keep each other and the people that we work with in that frame of mind where we are acknowledging our own gifts, our strengths, the growth areas, and being able to look back and say, wow, I did that. And that feels really good. And helping people to see where they're increasing their confidence, where, just where your what is it that, like, where your expansion is occurring. Yeah.
Right. And we're sharing our energy from that expansion, from our challenges, from our stumbles,
Mhm. Yeah.
from, the choices that we made and realized that's not going to work. And sometimes it costs us money.
Yeah, it
If we
does.
can prevent people, yeah, if we can prevent people from, or at least give them the choices and the paths to choose from that would best fit that so that they don't have to make those as many stumbles. We're all going to stumble.
Yeah.
But how do we get up from those stumbles? How do
Yes.
we rebound? How do we remain resilient and,
Mm.
and move forward so we can achieve those things that we would love to do and the goals that we set for ourselves? So
Oh, I like that. Is this a good place to wrap up?
this is a good place to wrap up.
Yeah. I like that. I like the reminder that we're not perfect, that we are growing, that we've learned some things, that we've stumbled along the way, that we see the value of ourselves and each other. Um, yeah,
And to be kind to yourself.
yes,
Yeah.
and that we can continue to keep creating. I know for myself, I'm happiest when I'm creating, and I love sharing. I love sharing what I learn and what I create with others. And that's when I'm happy. I'm a happy
Yeah.
place. And
Yeah. And I think we're both in the same boat, so to speak. We feel like we have so much to offer at this point that we don't want to keep on rowing for ourselves. We want other people in our boat and to
yeah,
help them to expand their energy. So as a practitioner working with wellness, we want to see everyone move forward in their own wellness journey.
mhm, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for this great conversation, Heidi.
Thank you for sparking my interest in sharing what I want with everyone. And we just hope that everybody gains something from this to help on their wellness journey and reach out if they need to, if they're interested in moving forward even more. We've got things to connect with and collaborate on.
And reach out to share what you're working on too. I love hearing other people's projects. I love hearing where they've been able to change their lives. Anything you feel like you want to share, because I feel like it's through the sharing where not just those of us who are sharing with each other, but the people who are reading comments. If you're seeing this on YouTube, post in the comments, because I really think it's important right now for people to see and read and feel and experience some kindness and that positive, good energy of encouragement. So I hope everybody, if you're celibate, where that came from, folks. If,
However you celebrate.
if you celebrate this holiday or any other holiday, um, I hope you make it what you want it to be and feel loved because you are.
Kindness matters. Thanks for your time.
Yes.